Thank you. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We're going to let everybody come out of the waiting room and into our program. If you can turn on your videos so we can see your smiling faces, that would be great. Today we are in meeting mode, so we get to talk to each other. Although you guys will be on mute. If you want to say something, you raise your hands, and Heather will unmute you. Perry, how's the weather there where you are?
A little overcast. I'm going to get some rain today, but that's all right. We had a beautiful day yesterday. Hey, as we get started, we had some issues last time with the chat. I just want to know today, for everybody that's on already, just tell me how much snow or how much rain you got in the last week, or if you had any inclement weather, because I know our friends up in the Northeast got slammed. It would be really interesting to see in the chat if they could tell us how many inches they got or what it looks like right now for them, because it just gives me a little bit of insight.
Diana says 2 feet. We got 3 feet of snow here. In fact, we just dug out this morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no.
I feel like I live in an igloo.
Denise, sorry, we're going to ask for inches on this one. No centimeters.
12 inches in Massachusetts, 18. Yeah, it's crazy, right? It's just crazy.
Yeah, so it sounds like everybody got really beat up. Yeah, well, of course, Chattanooga, not really. You guys got lucky down there.
Just a quick housekeeping thing. If anybody doesn't know how to raise their hand, there is a little reactions button with a smiley face. And when you click on it, there is a rectangle on the very bottom of it under the icons that says raise hand. So if anybody wants to speak, this is how you raise your hand. I'm going to put it in the chat as well.
Thank you. All right, people are still entering. We're holding right around 59. We had 136 registered as of this morning, which is terrific.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess my badgering emails are starting to hit home with some people, and they're saying, all right, I'll finally click this so Perry gets off my case.
Yeah, well, we're going to do a little work today, everybody. It's not just sitting around listening to Perry and listening to me call on Perry. So Perry's not going to answer all the questions today.
Yeah, so just, and I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, because you got 63 participants and they're still coming in right now. But just to give you a little bit, we're going to do some breakout sessions. So we're going to get into teams, and we're going to have a little work to do, like Caryn says. So we're excited to get that part of it going too. So
yeah, and so what you might want to also do while we're waiting for the numbers are still climbing is to either take out a sheet of paper if anybody has any paper anymore. Not that many people use paper, and if you don't, then to open up a Word doc so that you will be able to write when it's that time. Okay, well, Perry, why don't we get started welcoming everybody, telling everybody what we're going to do, and then we'll just dive right in.
Sure. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our second session webinar with Caryn Kopp today. Today, we're going to be talking about the GAP method of sales messaging. And what we're going to do is actually break out during about 15-20 minutes into the session. We're going to do a breakout period. So we're going to get into teams. We're going to do a little brainstorming, and we're going to come back and talk about these things. I know we had some issues with the chat category and the response last time. We have resolved those issues. We are confident that we're in a good place today. We do have Heather and Adi sitting by to help us out if there's any issues. What else am I missing, Caryn?
When we put you into the breakout rooms, please be kind to your fellow participants and go into the breakout rooms and participate. Don't leave yourself open, because then you might have one person in a breakout room with three spots open, and the one person will not have anybody in the breakout room. But if for any reason that happens to you when you're in a breakout room, just come into the main room and we'll work on things together. Okay, anything else, Perry, we need to know before we dive in?
We're recording everything, so we'll have video probably by the end of the week. We're going to get the decks to everybody too, so you don't really go nuts trying to remember everything. It's, do take away some good quality key points, but we're going to back it up with some documentation after we're done. Right now, everybody is on mute, and we do have the ability to do your video. So if you want to put your face on, by all means, click the video. But once we get into breakout sessions, we will go with and remove the mute so that you guys can have a discussion. All right, I think that covers it, Caryn.
All right, good. So we are together until 1 o'clock East Coast time. We are going to be working, as I said, I'm going to introduce this concept called the gap messaging method. And this is designed so that you have a slam dunk answer for when prospects say to you, I already have a vendor for that, thanks anyway, or we're handling it internally. This is exactly, or even I know 3 other people who do what you do, and one of them is my cousin Vinny. This is the slam dunk answer. So you're going to be developing that for yourself. So before we get into that, I just wanted to remind you of one thing that we talked about last time, and then I want to find out from you how things are going. So remember this slide that I put it up twice last time, how you're going to meet prospects virtually. You identify the exact right prospects for you and centers of influence, and we talked about that might have changed since before the pandemic. So I'm hoping that you did a little bit of work on that, on who are the very best prospects for you, who are the buyers who are spending. We talked about trigger events, and then preparing the message, preparing to articulate how you can be indispensable to these people. We're going to be doing one method today, but to be thinking about each one of those people, then of course, develop the approach. How are you going to speak with them? Are you going to ask somebody for an introduction? Are you going to call them directly? And then finally, the do it part. Let's just zero in on do it for a second, because the do it part, as I said last time, is sometimes the hardest part, but that is the only part that's going to help you to actually have a conversation with someone. Think about over the last week, how many new prospects have you reached out to who are the exact right prospects or the exact right centers of influence? Let's put that in the chat. Let's see, and try not to make it up. Give us the number. How many new prospects have you reached out to in the last week? And be kind to Perry, because if you guys don't answer, I'm going to call him Perry again.
That's not fair, guys. Come on.
Yeah, come on, guys. 0. Bradley, thank you for your honesty. 1. Okay. 0, 1. Okay. Look, let's be honest with each other. You guys are busy. I understand that. That is one of the reasons why we went over how to fit business development into your busy day. 1,500, really, Matthew? All right. How many of those closed so far? Anybody else? Pending. Good one. Good. By next week, I'm going to expect that 50% of those have closed, because we're talking again next week too. Okay, so for everybody who wrote 0 or 1, or for those people who haven't written in the chat just yet, can I have your commitment that by next week, when we talk again, that you would have reached out to 2 new prospects, net new prospects who have not bought from you yet? And they could be people who are at a client's company who can buy from you who haven't yet, or they can be entirely new companies. Can I get the commitment? Right? Yes, if I can get your commitment in the chat. Yes, thank you, Sherry. Sandy thinking, okay. Listen, I love the honesty of this group. It's awesome. Awesome. And I'm going to ask you next week if you've done it. Just 2, just 2. Nothing to lose. That's right. Absolutely. There's nothing to lose to call somebody, but make sure it's not just an email alone, that you're actually going to call them and speak with them. Okay, so now let's, Sandy is saying to Brad that he's a show off. So now let's switch into words and messaging Because one of the things that I can tell you out of the experience that I have coaching many, many companies on how to do better with business development is that the person with the best words wins. It's not even like somebody said to me yesterday, the best words wins. And actually that's close, but it's not spot on. Spot on is the person with the best words wins. If you say something that's incredibly meaningful to a prospect or a client who you want to buy more from you, and your competitor doesn't say that, they don't have the words that are as meaningful to that individual, you win, they lose. The same is true if anybody enters into a proposal situation where you're up against the competition, or an RFP situation where you're up against the competition. I've seen more than once that the person who wins has the best words, even if that person may not be the best person for the job. Has that ever happened to you where somebody says something, they get the job, but you really were the right person for the job? It happens all the time. So I'm here to tell you that the use of words is a deliberate choice. You can be in control of what you say to somebody, and that the message that you say, whether it's a voicemail or what you say when somebody answers the phone, two sentences and a question, or the gap message of when somebody says, I already have a vendor for that, or I know other people who do what you do, thanks anyway. The words that you use are a choice. And you can decide to use words that work hard for you, or you can decide to use words that don't work hard for you, or you can decide to wing it. Winging it is a choice. and too many people, in my experience, will wing it. They'll get on the phone, they haven't thought through what they're going to say. They'll whip off an email, they haven't thought through what is it that I'm going to say that's going to lead this individual from where they are now in their thinking to where I want them to be. And that has to do with the words that you're using. So we talked a little bit about sentences and being proactive last time. Do you guys remember we talked about, instead of saying, I'll call you next week, you say, how's Thursday at 10? I think it's approximately the same number of words, but it's a very different intent and very different outcome. So we're going to come from like where we are now, which is about 20,000 feet, and I'm going to bring you down with me to about 1,000 feet. And we're going to, as an exercise, it's almost kind of like exercising and warming up and stretching before you actually work out. So we're going to stretch our minds for a little bit before we get into the gap messaging. And we're going to look at individual words. All right, so here they come. Now this is a little political. It happened a couple of years ago. I'm going to put up two different phrases, and one word is different. And actually within that word, it's only one letter that is different, but I want you to see how different the intent is. I don't know if you guys remember, there was a political figure a couple of years ago who said this: Iran has nukes. Right? Now let's change the sentence, because that is what happened. It wasn't the correct sentence. It actually, that person meant to say this: Iran had nukes. One letter of one word completely changes the intent. Change the word, change the outcome. Raise your hand if you remember this one. Anybody remember that? A couple people remember that. All right, so let's get out of the political arena and we'll go over a couple other word pairs. So someone may be interested in your services, which is entirely different if somebody is serious about your services. We work with people who not just are interested in business development, they are serious about business development. This is an intensity change. Everybody see that? For those of you that I could see, nod your heads. Yeah, everybody see the difference? Okay. So here's another one, and then I'm going to ask you to participate in this. So somebody can have a disconnect with what you are saying. For those of you I can see, what does disconnect look like in a facial expression? What do you think it looks like? If somebody says something to you and it's just a total disconnect, what would you look like? What does that look like? Anybody? Blank stare. Yeah. I actually Googled this. It looks like this, like this. You know, somebody is really confused about what you're saying. But now let's change the word to aversion. Somebody has an aversion to what you're saying. What does that look like? That's right, Bradley, exactly. It looks like this, right? Negative, confused, yeah. So these are two words that mean something very different. So somebody may have an aversion to bad customer service, right? We work with people who have aversions to bad customer service. We don't want that for our clients, and we do things to make sure that that is never going to happen to them, right? So a disconnect and aversion. Now let's put up another one. Satisfied. Our clients are satisfied with our service. What do you think is a more intense word than satisfied? Put that in the chat. Our people are not just satisfied with our service, they are, what do you think? Stoked, thrilled, delighted, right, right. Thrilled, ecstatic, right. Here is the one I was thinking of, grateful. Our clients are grateful for the customer service we provide. Wouldn't your prospects love to be grateful for the kind of service? Relieved, yeah, that's another one sometimes too. Okay, here's another one. I'm going to show you how we can help you. What's it from an intensity standpoint? What's a better word than show? I'm going to show you how this works. Instead of show, what's better, more definitive? I'm going to walk you through, I'm going to demonstrate, educate, right? Give you an example. How about this? I'm going to prove how this works, right? Oh, Jeff, you and I are on the same page, right? So I'm going to prove how this works. So here are just some examples how you can be deliberate in selecting a word that's going to work really hard for you. So that's the first part of our stretching of our brains to get ready to do this messaging exercise. The next part of what I want to remind you about is the who. Now, we talked about this last week. There are a lot of people out there who you could talk to. There are only certain people out there who are going to feel, and if you remember this, the Venn diagram that we put up last time, there are only certain people who are going to feel urgency around having a meeting with you and taking next steps with you. There are only certain people who are going to find you and your company to be an obvious solution for them, and only certain people who will willingly pay what you want to charge for your products and services. So from an efficiency standpoint, if you're not talking to all these people, but you're talking to certain people, your business development efforts will yield better results for time spent. And if it's one thing I know about this group, this is a time challenged group, right? You have, with all of what you're doing to service your current clients, you don't have time to waste just talking to lots of people. It's more important that you're talking to certain people who will feel urgency, find you to be an obvious solution, and are not looking, in most cases, for the cheapest solution on the block. And if you guys see, I have my little doors behind me. There's actually only one golden door. There are a lot of doors back there, but there's only one golden door. There's a yellow door. It looks like the golden door, but it's not the golden door. There's only one golden door back there. And one of the things we do for our clients is when they close their first sale from our door opener program, we award the person who did it with the golden door, because it's hard to find that one golden door. But when you do, it is so much easier to get in the door. It's so much easier to go through the sales process, and it's so much easier to close. I know you guys have all had this kind of experience where you start talking to somebody and they're just like, I can't believe I didn't meet you 6 months ago. How do we begin, right? Have you all had that? Give me a thumbs up if you guys have had an experience like that, right? And if not, then let's create one for sure. We want to make sure that you guys are only focusing on those people who fit the categories that are important to you. So you see the little check boxes. This is just a reminder of where we were last week. Obvious solution, willingly pay, urgency, and then whatever else. Do you have geographic boundaries? Is there a particular set of decision makers that are just right for you, who need to know about you? What other criteria? Is it a certain size of company, a certain business problem that they're solving? And make sure, as you think about who you're going to call today, who you're going to call within the next week, can you check all the boxes for the criteria that are important to you, so that you're not wasting your time on people who are not going to represent an important win for you? All right. So as we start thinking about the gap method of sales messaging, I want you to think about one prospect. Get that person's face in your mind. I want you to think about it. Now, it could be a prospect that you've never met before. It could be a prospect at a current client, somebody you haven't done business with before, somebody you want to introduce yourself to. So either one of those two scenarios is fine for what we're doing, but I want you to have that person's face in your head, right? If you don't know what that person looks like, you can quickly look on LinkedIn. And so what is that person's color of hair? What color of eyes, if you happen to know? Does that person wear colorful clothing or more muted kinds of tones? Think of that person. Is that person a smiley person or a really serious person? Now in the chat, first names only, you don't have to say the name of the company. Write to me, what is that person's name? First name only. It's very important that you have a person in particular that you're thinking of when you create your gap message. Okay, we've got a Jennifer, a Phil, an Amber, an Adam, an Alicia, a Cherry, Jeff Holt. Nice, Danny. We always have one in the group, right? All right, Brandon. Okay, so you have that person's face in mind. As we enter into this next part, I'm going to talk to you about the gap messaging. I'm going to give you the framework. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Then before we go to the breakout rooms, I'm going to play this wonderful ukulele music that Heather found, and you are going to work on your own gap messaging, right? You'll have a couple of minutes to do that. All right, so here it is, the gap method of sales messaging. So this clearly states why you are of more value. Many people spend a lot of time trying to figure out why they're different. And I'm here to tell you that nobody cares why you're different. Nobody cares. Nobody cares why you're different. They only care why you are of more value to them. And if you can articulate that, you win. If you can't articulate that, or you cause a disconnect, worse, if you cause an aversion, you don't win in that situation. You likely will not be able to advance. So when we're talking about gap and why you are of more value, think about like everybody is here on the same playing field. And with words, you are going to create gap and you are going to be here. Now, I've seen when this is done properly that you can basically make your competition irrelevant to a particular individual. That's how powerful this is. In fact, a couple of years ago, when I came up with this framework, and it's so simple, wait till you see it. It's so simple. But when I came up with this framework, I unveiled it during a 300-person seminar. And that's always a little risky when you unveil kind of a new idea in front of 300 people. But I gave them some time to work on it. And then I asked for a couple of volunteers, which I'm going to do today too. So be thinking about who's going to volunteer. When you volunteer, you get a little extra coaching from me on this. But I asked for volunteers and somebody stood up in the audience and he said his gap messaging. There were a couple of very big decision makers in the room from pharmaceutical companies. And at the next table, somebody from Pfizer stood up and asked for his card because of that gap messaging. I had a friend who was sitting at that table with him before he stood up and worked on his gap messaging. And she said they had gone around the table asking each other what they do. And when he had said what he did, she didn't understand it at all. And then after he said his gap message, it was a whole different story. So we can get to a very different place in a very short period of time. Okay, it is the answer to, I already have a vendor for that, and it can make your competition irrelevant if it's done properly. It needs to be specific to a person. That's why I had you think of who your person is, and it's specific to an offering. So what you would say to somebody when you're brand new in the relationship may be different than what you say to somebody after you've already submitted a proposal. What you would say to a C-level person might be different than what you'd say to a manager kind of person. All right. So here is the framework. Very simple, 3 lines. Anybody can, and you fill in the blank, but not everyone can, and you fill in the blank. And then, for example, I'm going to give you 2 examples. One is for our business, one is for a promotional products fictitious kind of a business. All right, for us with the door opening, anyone can say they can get you some prospect meetings, but not everyone can prove that they consistently get executive level prospect meetings and have done so for 21 years of the company's history. For example, we have a client who has had 168 meetings, has closed 55 new clients, has increased their closing ratio from 1 in 5 to 1 in 3 as a result of our recommendations, and has reported a 500% return on investment so far. That's what we can do. All right, so that gives you an example for my business. Let's turn it to promotional products. Now, this is a fictitious company, so anyone can say they give good customer service, but not everybody can prove they give good customer service. For example, one time a supplier was having difficulty getting product out the door. We rectified the issue and chartered a plane at our expense in order to make our client look good. That's what we can do. Okay, so that just gives you an example. So it takes something like customer service. And how many people say they give good customer service? Everybody. Everybody can say they give good customer service. And in fact, thanks for laughing, Bradley. I appreciate that. So not just that they give good customer service, but they say that, and yet not everybody does. And you know that, right? So in fact, if you don't give good customer service in most industries, especially yours, go home. Like, you might as well not even be in business. That isn't that just the price of entry to be in business, is that you have to give good customer service. So that alone, saying that alone is almost like what I would call a vanilla phrase. Who cares, right? But when you put it this way, not everybody says they can give good customer service, but not everybody proves it. So when I say that statement, and I'm telling you this so you can evaluate your own in a few minutes when I play the ukulele music. When you say that statement, but not everybody can, whatever you put after that, those couple of words, the person who hears it, that person whose face you have in your head, has to basically nod in agreement. Yeah, not everybody can prove it, right? Because most of them have had a bad experience at some point or another, but of course not with any of you, but they would nod along. If they're not going to nod along, I'm going to recommend you change your sentence and say something else with which they would, yeah, that's true, that they would nod along. Okay, so that's kind of the rules. I'm going to remind you of that after the ukulele music. All right, so let us, whoops, before I play the ukulele music, wait, hold on, let me just back up for a second. Okay, before I play the ukulele music, you're going to have about 2.5-ish, 3 minutes to work on this. Have a piece of paper or do it on a Word document on the computer. You're going to need that when you go into your breakout rooms. So, you know, just manage that so you're able to work on it once you go into the breakout rooms. Okay, does anybody have any questions about what they're going to do? Any questions? You could raise your hand or put it in the chat. Heather, are you seeing any questions? Nope. Okay. All right, here's the ukulele music. You guys are filling in. Anybody can, but not everybody can. For example, you have about 2.5 minutes. Go ahead. Okay, just a few seconds left. Okay. All right. How was that exercise for you? If you need more time, actually, put it in the chat. Let's hear. Do you need more time? Yes for more time? No for no more time. Okay, so you guys, a couple of people are writing in. All right, good. Any questions about the exercise you just did? No? Before we go into the breakout rooms, does somebody want to share one? Do we have a hand up? Jennifer Allen said she will. Thank you, Jennifer. You're very brave. Heather, can you unmute Jennifer? Let's see.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay,
Okay.
go ahead. I'm going to turn up my sound. All right. So
Ready?
yes, Jennifer, thank you for volunteering. That's awesome. Tell everybody in one sentence, I have the instructions on the screen, exactly what you do in one sentence, who your ideal client is. You don't have to say the person's last name or the company name, and then read your gap message.
Okay, wait. So start before the message. You want me to say who I'm thinking of in my
Yes. Yes, just in one sentence, who is this person, the role? You don't have to tell us the person's full name or the company.
It would be a senior role, somebody I have not worked with yet at a company that I do work with already.
Okay, awesome. All right, go ahead. Let's hear it.
Anybody can source merchandise, but not everyone can add value and create a marketing campaign. For example, we sourced retail merchandise with customized tags to promote a new show. We married the messaging to the merchandise.
Mm-hmm. Right, and that's what you can do. Now, if you think about this individual, and what's the person's first name?
Amy.
Amy. So if you think about it from Amy's perspective, like put Amy's hat on and you hear what you just said, if you were Amy, how does it land? Do you think she's going to agree with that and say, oh yeah, you're right. There's definitely a gap here between the other people I have experience with and what you just told me. Would you say she would agree with that?
Possibly. I don't totally know.
Okay, so we want to be further along than possibly. We want to be in the very likely or absolutely camp. So when it comes to picking what things you're going to say and which example you're going to use, you don't want to go too wide that you're not sure if it's going to land with her, and you don't want to go too narrow because it could cause a disconnect. You want to be somewhere in the middle. And just to give you guys a feel, like when we're writing sales messaging for our clients, what we'll do is we'll put our hat on when we write it, and then we put their hat on, we feel how it lands. Are we agreeing with it? If we're not agreeing with it or we're not sure, we put our hat on again and we start changing some of the words. We change sometimes the intent in order so that when we put the other hat on and we feel how it lands, we're like, yep, I completely get it. And that's when you know that you're there. Okay.
Well, I think, can I just say one thing?
Yeah,
I think
sure.
I have the right person, but what I'm saying is I don't know if she could be working with somebody who already is giving her this. So that's what I'm unsure about.
Right. So then what you might want to do to create more gap is to add words like a more. Like anybody can give you those ideas, like what you just said, but not everybody can give you ideas that can blank. Do you see what I'm saying? So you could say that any one of these companies can not only give you the merchandise, but they can also give you ideas. But not every company that gives you ideas can give you blank and then create value there. So whether she's getting the ideas or she's not getting the ideas, it's still creating a gap. Does that help? You can tell me no. It's okay. I can take it. Or you might have been muted by now. Okay. Well, what we're going to do now is we're going to send you into the breakout rooms. There's going to be 4 people per breakout room. Please go into the breakout rooms. I did see one person who had to take an urgent call, but please go into the breakout rooms and participate. Every breakout room is going to have a leader. Okay, the breakout rooms are ready. Everybody, all the breakout rooms are going to have a leader. The leader of the breakout room is the person with the shortest hair, which means you have to come on video so you can see who has the shortest hair, and that person will be the leader. The leader will go first and share his or her gap messaging, right? You want to say in one sentence what you do, in one sentence who you're talking to, say your gap message, and then you get feedback. And then the next person goes, the next person goes, and the next person goes. You're going to be in the breakout rooms for 10 minutes. It might feel like a long time or not long enough, but each person gets approximately 2.5 minutes, and then you can get feedback from everybody. All right, Heather, we are ready. Okay, and if for some reason you're alone in a breakout room, come back into the main room and we'll work on the message together. All right, Heather. Bye, guys. Have a good time.
We need to make sure they're not muted in their breakout room.
Yes, good point. Heather, are they muted in their breakout rooms? Heather is muted. Adi?
Okay.
She unmuted. Okay, I see Heather. Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, we have a few people who couldn't be in the breakout rooms. Let's see. Cindy, are you still waiting for a breakout room?
I am.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's going. We have a lot of people on the call.
Yeah,
Just
no worries.
Please be patient. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no worries.
I could see people moving. One time I was in a breakout room by myself. I felt like I was in timeout.
Excuse me. Oh, that's my mask in here.
But I don't know what's going on, so maybe I don't want to. Just leave your, literally just leave yours down right as you were. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Heather, are they all in? I can still see a bunch of people on my screen. Are they in breakout rooms?
Hey, Karen, I'm looking at the breakout rooms and it looks like a lot of people are in them.
Okay.
If you go down to the bottom where it says breakout rooms and you click on that button, you can see who's in the rooms.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I see there are 2 unassigned that didn't join and everybody else seems to be in the rooms.
Yeah.
We've got 3 in one, we've got 4 in another. Yeah. Good. I'm afraid to touch anything, so I don't want to touch anything, mess
Yeah.
everybody up.
We got to see about Edwin and Adrienne.
Yeah, they might have not joined on purpose.
Okay.
We have like a couple people in the chat. Oh, Heather just made sure nobody was alone. Thank you, Heather.
Nobody likes to be alone.
That happened to me one time. I was like, oh, gee, I'm in timeout. It says many haven't joined. Oh, that's a shame. I only see 2 that haven't joined. You can see more. Okay.
Yeah, if you scroll down in the rooms, you could see individual names that indicate not joined, not joined.
Oh, well, I'm one of them. Oh, you know what? In room 17, nobody has joined. Okay, because you and I were in that room. Gary and Dina didn't join. They were in that room. So as long as they didn't want to join, I guess that's okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and then room 15, there's 3 of them in the room and 1 who didn't join. So it doesn't look like there's anybody who's alone. That's good. Room 9, there was 1 person and Bart has not joined.
And Bart is with a group. I know I saw his video screen earlier. They were doing a conference room meeting, so he's probably in with Matt Nutt.
Okay.
Nutt.
In room 7, Cindy and Wendy are together. Yeah. Yeah. Look, it's fascinating technology.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, right. 2 more minutes. Yeah, they've been in there for what? They've been in there for 10 minutes already? 8 minutes, Heather? They've been in there for 8. Yeah, so we'll give them 2 more. Nice job, Heather. Really nice job.
Hey, Heather, you can broadcast a message to all and tell them that, hey, 2-minute warning.
She did. I could see it on the screen.
Okay, got
Yeah.
it. See it. Way to go.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. Good job, because I wouldn't want to be at the control panel.
That's why she makes the big bucks.
Yeah, that's right. She gave us a smile. Now, Perry, depending on how far we get, you know, in terms of once we start reviewing examples and things like that, I figured we can, one of the things we didn't get to last time was how to close sales in less time. I have a methodology for that. And then what we might be able to do is I can introduce it. It's pretty quick. And then if we have enough time, we can send everybody back and they can help each other solve a stuck sales problem. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah. That'll be fun for them. 1 more minute.
Now, when they come out, will they be all unmuted?
I don't think so. They're going to be muted and then they have to raise their hands because otherwise everybody's going to be talking over everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I think they're going to come back. Heather says if they're unmuted, she'll mute everybody. Okay, then Heather, I'll start asking for volunteers. And
They'll close in 40 seconds.
okay,
Yeah, babe.
all right, everybody's coming back. Good. Welcome back. How was it?
Talking to me?
Yeah, Cecilia, you're the only one who's not muted, so we'll talk to each other. How was it?
Yeah, it was good. It was very good. Yeah. It was yeah, it was stuff we're doing, but it was good to kind of call it out and put a value to it and a thought.
Yeah, did the framework help you?
Yeah.
Good. Did you get some good feedback from the people in your session?
She just got put on mute.
I was muted too. Heather, can you unmute Cecilia, please? See if we can get. Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yep. Yeah, we did. We had some, Luke was in my group, he's there, and we had some good feedback. We talked about what we're saying, why we're saying it, and the value that drives it in there.
What are some of the specific words you guys talked about, which were powerful and meaningful words?
You want to unmute Luke? I'll let him run with it. He was presenting most of it.
Okay, Heather, can you unmute Luke?
I know, say
That's
that 5 times real
That's
fast.
a tongue twister.
There we go.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Drive your business was one that came up that I thought was powerful. Who doesn't, want to hear that we're going to help them drive their business?
Okay. So the one question I would ask you when it comes to drive, like that's a really great action word. We're going to drive the business. When you put on the hat of your prospect, how is that going to land? What's your prospect's first name?
Sherry.
Sherry. Okay, if you think that you are Sherry and you're hearing this information from Luke, how is it landing for Sherry? Does she know what drive means?
Great question. And maybe that brings up a good point that I should be more specific. She is the sales and marketing manager, so I would assume that she would take drive as we are going to improve her marketing message, her sales numbers in general through branding and marketing, but I could see there could be some ambiguity there for sure.
Yeah, so specificity in sales language is really what wins. Now, as I said before you guys went into the breakout rooms, you could be too wide and then it doesn't land anywhere, or you could be too narrow. So for example, if you said to her, this is going to drive your top line sales, but profitability is important to her, or increased distribution is important to her, you may have a disconnect. So you want to just make sure you're not too wide, you're not too narrow, but that what you say to her when it lands, she's going to be like, oh, like any company can tell you they're going to give you these great ideas, but not every great idea is going to drive sales, but in what way, right? Not every great idea is going to help you increase sales, increase distribution. Like depending on where you are in your relationship with this person, you may have already asked some of those questions, right? Is this a second meeting? Is it a first meeting? Where are you in your relationship with Sherry?
Specifically, she's a current client that I want to continue to expand business with. So I do know her fairly well. A good question for you, Caryn, I guess, is when you're doing this for the first time, do you want to keep it pretty vague so it kind of applies to, I don't want to say everything, but you know what I mean? You kind of hit the nail on the head where it's, you don't want to be too specific, but yet too vague. And obviously that would continue to narrow down as you got to know that person better. So
Yes.
it is a little bit of a judgment call. Like one thing that I focused on was our guarantee that we have You know, everybody can say that you'll be happy with the product, but not everybody will guarantee it, right? So I'm just, no matter what the situation is, you're showing them a level of, I guess, confidence in the products that we're offering, and them knowing that if they aren't happy, that we'll rectify the situation, which
Right.
applies to kind of everything. So that was my gap message.
Yeah, so anybody can say you'll be happy, but not everybody will guarantee you'll be happy, right? Even from a delivery standpoint. Do you see the staccato in there? Not everybody will guarantee
Right.
you'll be happy.
Yep.
So in order to make the decision as to whether this is the right one for you until you take it live, right, with Sherry, is to pretend you are her. And where is that going to land for her? And if it's going to land smack in agreement, oh yeah, you're right, then you're there. And then the example that you choose needs to be an example that applies to her. And I'll give you an example of that. So in the message that I said for our company, where I talked about 168 meetings and 55 new clients, well, depending on who I'm talking to, that would be an enormous disconnect, because not everybody who comes to us to help them get meetings with prospects wants 168 meetings. There are certain people who would say, like, that is way too many. It would swamp them. They don't want that. They want fewer meetings. So I have to know who I'm talking to when I choose the example. So when I say the example, I'm not going to cause a disconnect. I'm not going to cause, as you said, ambiguity or fuzziness in any way. A lot of times when I'm having these sessions, I'm correcting the ambiguity or the vanilla phrases, like, we're a boutique company. Well, what does boutique mean to the prospect? Who knows? You know, boutique could mean it's too small. Boutique could mean they focus on something that I don't care about. But a lot of people say boutique when it comes to that. You could say a guarantee. I don't know how many other people guarantee it, or you can be specific about the guarantee. Like, what is it that you're going to do? You know, a lot of people will guarantee it, but not everybody who guarantees it will do this. And then they'll be like, wow, well, it's amazing you guarantee it, because most people don't do that. Then you're smack in the camp of that person agreeing with exactly what you said.
Absolutely. Rod said that in the chat as well. So thank you for the tip.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thank you for saying your message, and and great ideas. All right, who else would like to say their gap message and get some feedback? And Heather is going to be watching. You can raise your hand, or you can put it in the chat and say me.
Let's
Anybody?
not all do this all at the same time, because I don't want to have to start speaking again.
Okay, Michael McGrath, thank you very much. That's right. Perry is very afraid I'm going to call on him. So you guys help him out. Be nice to Perry. Okay, so Michael, are you unmuted? Heather
I
is
am.
Okay, awesome. There you are. Okay, Rita, first of all, tell us who you're talking to in one sentence. You don't have to say the last name or the company. Just tell us who the level of the person is and what they do. And then you'll read us your gap message.
I struggled a little bit with trying to identify one person. I had someone that did pop into mind because she's been a customer for a really long time, but I felt like I should be thinking outside of that potentially. And I was struggling with this should apply to anyone, sort of like an elevator pitch. But so I didn't, really pick a specific person, but I could say Angela, because yeah, a longtime client, but I don't feel like I don't really need to have this pitch for her because she already loves me,
Okay, well, this one works specifically well when you're in a situation where somebody's going to say, I have another vendor for that, thanks anyway, or I know people who do what you do, thanks anyway, or we're going to handle this internally, I'm going to go online, or whatever it is. This is that answer. Do you want to read your gap message, and let's hear what you have?
Sure. Yeah. Anyone can sell you product with your logo on it, but not everyone can truly be your partner on projects and treat it like it's their own. or my own. I was treat it like it's my own. For example, an insurance company ordered custom bobbleheads with a milestone number on each one, 2,500 pieces. And they didn't make that milestone. There was no time or money to redo the job. So I stepped up and took care of it myself in the garage by grinding off the numbers and touching them up with paint and delivering the product. And they were super excited and happy with the final result. It was the only way to really make it happen.
Yeah, that's an awesome example. I love that example. Say the first two lines again. Let's see if they go together.
The anyone can lines or
Mhm.
okay, anyone can sell you a product with your logo on it, but not everyone can truly be on projects and treat it like it's their own.
Right. Okay. So let's play with this one a little bit. And instead of my just giving you my perspective, let's open it up for the folks on the call to give a little feedback on what might he be able to do with those first two sentences to make them go with that example, maybe even a little better. So we're taking something that's already good and we're bringing it to the next level. Anybody have an idea? You could either put it in the chat that you do or raise your hand and Heather will unmute you. Who has an idea for Michael? Anybody? Don't make me call him Perry. Anybody? Why don't you give us the first two sentences again?
Anyone can sell you a product with your logo on it, but not everyone can truly be your partner on projects and treat it like it's their own.
Mm-hmm.
Treat
Okay.
them like they're their own.
Great. So we've got, let's see, could you use the term extreme ownership? Interesting. Okay. And anything else in there? Let's see. Not everyone will stand behind their product after the sale. Yeah. So I think there's some things in there, that extreme ownership. I really like that. You know, so anybody can sell you some product, but not everybody will maybe even change it on the fly when things change for you, right? Not everybody's going to change it on the fly if things change for you, for example, or something like that. Because the example you gave is such a wonderful example. Like, people will order something and then they get what they ordered. But if something changes for them, not everybody's going to stand by them and make sure they have exactly what they need,
Right.
even if, how about this, even if something changes after the order is placed.
Yeah. And it wasn't my fault, but I understand that they're, you know, they're not going to be able to use these if the way they are, you know.
Right. Yeah. So there's somebody else who said, not everybody will partner with someone who will treat the project like it's their own. We have, one of our core values is spend client money as if it were your own. And then you can have an example like that. So these are really some great ideas. One of the things that I would say is that after you have punched up these ideas, and make sure that the first two sentences go with that example, because your example is so strong. But your first two sentences, I think, could be even stronger to go with that example. So then to take a look at every individual word, and kind of like we started at the top of the program, and we were looking at every word, and is every word working as hard for you as it can? And you may want to change the word, change the outcome. We have Cindy says, not everyone will communicate well and know where you stand through the process. Yeah, and make changes if you need changes, even after an order is placed. Now, let me ask you, Michael, how often has that situation happened in your experience with buyers where something has changed after they place an order? Does that happen often?
Well, it's not really, but it has, and it's like, okay, how do we fix this, right? But I think that maybe, you know, in my head, I'm going down these different paths, you know, from your your assignment essentially. But like one of the things, because I'm toying with different words too, and one of the things that I was thinking is trying to change it around to include like, it's not just business, it's personal for me too. Like it's mine, like I own the project as well. It's, I really feel like, and I forgot her name, I want to say Jessica, in my breakout group, she said that like she's part of the team, their team, right?
Right.
Along that line, like, and that's kind of a personal thing. Like I'm embedded in this project, it's mine,
Yeah.
and there
So
have been things like that where just
anybody can sell you some product, but not everybody is going to be personally in this with you to guarantee a success, for example, something like that. Because, when you say on the team, if I had a dime for every time I heard somebody in the promotional products or marketing industry say, we're an extension of your team. Maybe the first person who used that, I would say it was meaningful because others didn't. But now everybody says it to the point where I personally feel that it's vanilla. It's just kind of something that everybody says. We'll give you good customer service. We're going to be an extension of your team. But what does that really mean? That you are personally in it with them for their success, for example, and then to have that example, which is so powerful. What do you think of that as a place to take this? Yeah. So play with that a little bit more and see if you can get those first two sentences to just lay the foundation for the next one, to the point where when the person hears it, that person is going to nod and say, oh yeah, you're right. No, but I don't know anybody who would do that, like charter a plane. Who's going to charter a plane? It's kind of like what you did, right, with that example. Okay, good. Does that help? Okay, awesome. Thank you. Who else wants to go? Let's see. We'll get a me in the chat or raise your hand. Heather's watching. Who else wants some feedback? Nobody else wants feedback? Anybody? Okay, Min. Heather, Min is raising his hand. Okay, there, you're off mute. Hello.
Everyone. Yes, I'll do my best. So I'm with Fairware. We specialize in ethical sourcing and sustainable promo products. And I'm thinking specifically of buyers from universities. And my statement is, everybody can say they source products from an ethical supply chain, but not everyone can prove that they've done the work to assess their suppliers and supply chain to provide transparency to their client. For example, we won an RFP bid with UCLA where we had to map out product provenance all the way down to the factory location and daylight the external audits that were done, certifications that they had, and how they're going above and beyond compliance.
Okay.
And I'll just finish with, so not only do we give creative ideas, we ensure products line up with our clients' values.
Okay. So I imagine the person that you're talking to has that issue, right? Do all the people, is that for the buyers that are out there who you're talking to, are they all very concerned about whether the supplier is honorable and reputable?
Yeah, the clients we focus on, yes.
Okay. Well, that's really important to know. So, because that's not a blanket statement for everybody, but that's for a very certain group of prospects. So what is the exact issue that might have burned some of those prospects in the past? Let's see if we can get a little bit more specific.
Can you rephrase that question?
Yeah, so you're talking about the fact that anybody can choose a supplier, but not every supplier that someone chooses can do what you're saying they need to do, right?
Yeah.
And would the buyer, this special buyer, would they agree with that?
Yeah, so we've been receiving RFPs that request more transparency on supply chain. And this is where the statement is trying to provide value about it.
Okay, and so
Yeah.
when they hear that or when they read that, would that person say, oh yeah, that's right, most people don't do that, and that's really important to me? Would they say that that would be a driving force? There's that word, driving.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, okay, and do others say the same thing, or do they not say that, your competition?
I think only a handful of competitors would say that,
Yeah,
not many.
yeah. So one of the places I'm thinking is that anybody can say they work with certain suppliers, but not everybody pre-vets the supplier and certifies that they're right.
That's right.
Is my
Yeah.
intent the same as your intent?
Yes.
Okay, so when we have the pre-vet, that means, to me, it means the work has already been done. So the customer is not going to feel that in terms of any delays or finding out something that they should have found out before, that you're pre-vetting and then certifying that they're right. And they may not be certified in the certification kind of process, but you as a company can create a little certification process for these vendors so that they have been pre-approved, pre-certified, pre-vetted, so that your customers are never going to feel that pain for others who don't do that. Does that get you to where you need to go?
Yeah, and we have that process in place.
Right, okay. So you may want to talk about that.
Okay.
As that anybody can say they can get you some suppliers, but not everyone has a process in place for vetting and certifying the vendors, so the buyer never has to worry about that, for example.
Yeah.
Does that get you where you want to go?
Yeah.
Okay, I just, like we're talking for like 20 seconds, so I may not get the
You made it
exact
more concise, and you use words that that were, yeah, concise and powerful in a sense that people get it right away when you say pre-vetting.
Right. So that's what you want to do. Like after you've written this down, you want to go back. First of all, step number one, how is it landing for your prospect? Is your prospect going to say, yep, that's right, other people don't do that? The second thing is are there any words that you've used where you can take the word and punch it up, as we've said, like the pre-vetting, the certifying, where it's going to not only land better, but it just has more intensity. It's going to work harder for you than others. Then the last piece of this is your sentences may be like this. They may be 20 words long. Can we reduce the number of words and get it down to 10 instead of 20? So that when it comes out, you're not rambling forever. Your example, usually there's a lot of fat in the examples. So you have the ability to bring the example down in terms of number of words. And then that makes it easier for the prospect to follow what you're saying and then agree with you on that. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. Well, I have a gift for you in terms of another example of how to use words in order to make the sales process a little easier. So what we're going to do now is we're going to shift from gap messaging, and I'm going to introduce another concept for you in terms of how you can help stuck sales to close. Because one of the complaints that I'm getting over and over again from people in many industries, not just in your industry, is that they have proposals that are stuck in the process, whether it's an RFP or just a proposal or just somebody who's just stuck and you can't get them to the next step or to the close. And I have some words which can help you to brainstorm how you can get somebody to the finish line. You guys think that would be helpful? Give me a thumbs up if you think that would be helpful. It's super simple. In about a minute, I'm going to share with you what that framework is. I'm going to put you in, well, actually, Heather is going to put you in breakout rooms. And then you can share with each other one example of a situation where you have a sale that's stuck. And you can use this framework I'm going to give you to help each other to get these sales unstuck. You may not have time for everybody to go. So the person with the shortest hair is the leader in the group, will pick the order of the people who will go. Before we do that, I just wanted to ask you, what is the first name of the prospect who's going to hear your gap message? Not the person you were thinking about before, but now yet another person who you're going to try your gap message out on. Put it in the chat. One more person who you're going to reach out to and use this gap message. Who is it? Let's see what people say. Brendan. Okay, awesome. Now remember, when we talk to each other next week for our Q&A, I'm going to ask you about this. And did you reach out to these people who you committed to, and what happened there? Okay. There's a formula I want you to remember, which is language plus delivery equals outcome. What you say and how you say it determines the result. And you want to make sure that now that we've had this wonderful session of coming up with this slam dunk gap message, that you're able to come out with it conversationally. And that means you're going to practice it a little bit in a non-high pressure situation so that you can come out with it when the time is right. We talked a little bit last week about avoiding doing sales poorly. I want you to remind you about that. Make sure your emails are personalized. You don't have crappy voicemails, because you don't get a second chance. All right, so how do you close in less time? So a lot of times people will say to me that when the sales are flowing through the pipeline, and it's often like a garden hose. You turn the water on, then the spigot, and it goes, and then it comes out the other side. That is the closed sale. But sometimes it feels like there is a knot in that garden hose, and for some reason, despite your best efforts, you cannot seem to get that sale over the finish line. Before I give you the language and send you into the breakout room, the first thing I want you to think about is the prospect not buying at all? Is the prospect not buying from you? Or did you just not follow up? One of the biggest reasons why sales, which should close, don't close, is because people didn't follow up. If you're using a CRM, use your set task feature. So nobody ever falls through the cracks. There should always be a date and time for a next step. There should always be a date and time with a task so that you are reminding yourself. However, there are certain times when you've done everything right and now it's just stuck. You know it's the right prospect. You know they're buying. They're not yet buying from you. Now let's figure out, how do we get this sale unstuck? So here, this is my gift to you. So the framework is, you want to identify exactly the issue. What is the exact issue that's slowing or preventing success? And then you want to brainstorm under what circumstances, this is what you're going to ask yourself, under what circumstances would these issues no longer exist? What would need to happen? And I'm going to give you a quick example, and then Heather, we're going to send people into the breakout rooms quickly for a shorter period of time. But so here's the example. We were getting one of our clients meetings in the pharmaceutical industry with VPs of marketing, and she was selling a $300,000 service. And the VPs of marketing loved it. They wanted to buy it. But then when it came to, okay, let's sign the agreement, what they always said was, listen, you have to go talk to purchasing. And that started the whole process again. That happens very often in promotional products as well. And then you have to become an approved vendor. They already have a vendor list. And then you could be, old and gray by the time you're on that vendor list. So the big question was, how can she sell anyway? How can she close anyway, despite the fact that she had been told that she has to go to purchasing? So we're sitting there around this table and we're brainstorming. And we're using the language, under what circumstances. And I said to her, under what circumstances would they buy from you anyway? She said, under no circumstances, Caryn. I just told you, weren't you listening? Under no circumstances. They told me I had to go to purchasing. And I said, well, under what circumstances would you not have to go to purchasing? And she said, no, they told me I had to. And I said, no, under what circumstances would you not have to? So finally, she started answering my questions, and she didn't want to. She wanted to hit me with something really hard. And that's what'll happen when you go through this exercise with somebody. You're going to want to hit them with something really hard, but they have to keep saying to you under what circumstances, and sometimes you will have a breakthrough like she did. So when I finally said, well, under what circumstances would you not have to go to purchasing? And she said, well, if it wasn't a $300,000 purchase, they would be able to buy a part of it because they have this approval authority. I said, great. How much of an approval authority? She said about 100,000 they can approve without going to purchasing. Okay, well, now we're getting somewhere. Could you split your service into 3 parts so that they could say yes to the first part without going to purchasing? And once the first part was over, they can say yes to the second and yes to the third. She'd never thought of that. So she repackaged her service, went back to the VPs of marketing, who said, this is great. And they signed on the dotted line. She did not have to go to purchasing. If we had more time, I could give you more examples. And it all has to do with under what circumstances. So when we send you to your breakout rooms, which will probably, we're going to do that for, let's say, 5 minutes. Okay, Heather? And then we'll pull everybody back, choose one person and have that person tell you what the scenario is. And then once they tell you what the scenario is, the other people in the breakout room would say, under what circumstance would that not exist? Thumbs up if you understand what we're doing. Any questions? No? Okay. See you in 5 minutes. Enjoy. Okay, everybody's on their way out. Okay, just give it a minute if you're not yet in one. Okay, it doesn't look like anybody's by themselves. Oh, looks room 13, we've got somebody by herself. Room 15, she didn't join yet. Okay. Michael, are you waiting to go to a room? You're on mute. Yes? Let's see. You could write to me in the chat if you want, if you're waiting to go to a room. Okay. Okay, you're waiting to go to a room, yes? Yes, okay. There he goes. Heather, can you unmute Perry, or Perry, can you unmute yourself? No? Okay.
All right, I'm
Oh, there
back
you are.
in.
Yeah, there you are.
So my system crashed while we were in the middle of the last session.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's a good thing that mine didn't.
Yeah, so the Wi-Fi went down or something, and it took me about 2-3 minutes to get back in. So
Okay.
I'm not, I don't have all the functionality that I originally did, but that's okay. I don't need it. I'm not looking at the rooms, so I'm good with that.
That's okay. I'm looking at the rooms. It looks like room 13, Heather, that Teresa is by herself. Yeah. And everybody else has at least 2 people in a room. Bart, you're back.
He thinks he's back.
He thinks he's back. Bart, are you waiting to go to a room? Looks like he's not on.
He's in a conference group, so I don't know. Hey, Bart, listening? Nope.
Yeah, he hasn't joined. I can see on here. They didn't join. I wonder if they're just doing it as a group. Did you text him?
Yep. Talk to me, Bart. Can you hear me? There's the group. See?
We're looking at you. Hi, everybody. This one is such a powerful exercise, you know. It also fishes out whether the prospect was never right to begin with.
Yeah, they probably mute themselves because they're in a big format.
Yeah, they may, but hopefully they're just doing this themselves instead of going into the breakout room.
But that'd be a good team to pick on.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. It looks like they're not on mute. But they must
to ask
be.
for a specific time for following up.
Okay, everybody's coming back. Awesome. All right. Do we have everybody back? How was that as an exercise? Thumbs up if you like that exercise. Under what circumstances? Yeah, I got 2 thumbs up. That's it? Nobody else liked it? Thumbs up? Yeah, thank you. Thank you for, 2 thumbs up. Awesome. Thank you, Min. Love it. All right. Let's see, who would like to share? We had Bart in the big conference room with a bunch of people. Oh, Michael says it was too short. Yeah, I'm sorry. We have like 7 minutes left to go, and I thought it would be really helpful for you guys to experience that. But if you didn't get a chance to air your issue that stuck, or you were in the middle and it was too short, one of the things I would suggest is pick a coworker, or I prefer a coworker over a family member or somebody else who's on this call, and ask them to be the person who says to you, under what circumstances. If you don't have anybody who's willing to do that with you, you can ask yourself and do the thing with the hats. Under what circumstances would this move forward? And then think to yourself, okay, if I was my buyer, if I was my customer, would I say yes to that? Would that be like a slam dunk? Like when it was 300,000, it was a no-go, and we did it in 100,000, and then they were able to move forward. Is it a slam dunk like that? Would you be able to just say, oh yeah, let's go? And if the answer is no, then you haven't gotten there yet. Then you have to keep thinking about under what circumstances. Ask yourself that question. Have somebody else ask you that question. I've done this with a variety of clients before. You'll think of some very, very creative ways to move things forward. If you can't move something forward, there's possibly 2 scenarios. One is you've done everything already that you could possibly think of, and it's not going to move forward. You're just going to have to be patient, right? And that's the nature of business development. People don't always buy just because we're ready to sell, right? They buy when they're ready to buy. And sometimes you cannot move something forward. And if you force something, like I know some people will give a prospect an ultimatum. Bad idea. Really bad idea, because if they're not ready to move forward, maybe they have some outside factors that are going on that have nothing to do with you, and they just can't make a decision just yet. Factors that are beyond their control, beyond your control, and they really need a little bit of time in order to shift some things around to give you an answer. You've done everything you can do. There's going to be nothing that you can do to make that person move any faster. What this is designed to do is to identify whether there is anything, anything that's not price related. So when it comes to under what circumstances, we don't necessarily want to go straight to price, right? And the way you can avoid that is you could ask yourself, under what circumstances other than price would this move forward? And then start thinking that way. You can use this language with your prospects too, by the way. You can say to them, under what circumstances could we move forward together? And when you ask them that question, you must be quiet. You must be quiet. Remember last time we talked about different people process information at different paces. So if you talk over somebody who's processing something that you're saying, then you might trip over or stop their thought process and you'll never have the real answer. So that's one situation. If you can't think of anything for under what circumstances, you've done everything you can. Now, if you've done everything you can and you're not closing as much as you think you should, what do you think is the answer for that? Put that in the chat. If you're not closing as much as you think you should, despite your best efforts, what do you need to do? Let's put it in the chat in the last couple of minutes and have that conversation. What do you think? Let's see. It might be that client. Really think about if you want to work with someone who's price driven, right? Well, that's where you can say other than price. Michael, so if nothing is happening, then Michael says you should mope. I'm going to offer a different suggestion other than moping and being super sad. A lot of times people will revert to being super sad. What I'm going to suggest is if you've done everything you can think of and you just have to wait until that buyer is ready, then you do not have enough in the top of your funnel, right? So now it's time to start meeting more new prospects. It's time to find those people who are spending and introduce yourself by saying something that's really meaningful, by speaking to them so you have more people coming into the top of your funnel. So as you're waiting for these guys in the middle to move down, you're constantly replenishing. And that way you don't have the sad peaks and valleys in revenue creation that cause people to want to mope. Right? Well, if you have a lot coming in the top of your funnel and there are the exact right kinds of prospects, buyers who are spending, who feel urgency, then the middle of your funnel is going to have a lot of movement in it. So if there's one person or two people who are just not ready to move forward, it's okay. It's okay because other people are closing anyway. Oh, Brad says, call Caryn. Yes, call Caryn. Absolutely. Now, we have a minute to go before I turn it back to Perry. We have another session coming up next week. All right. This is where you're going to bring your questions. Any questions from today, any questions from last week, any questions that arise because when you reach out to the couple of people who you promised me that you would reach out to before next week, something went wrong, or you have a question about what to do next, write down your questions. And you can send them to Perry ahead of time if you want, and I'll take a look at them, I promise. Or you can just come to the session and ask your questions. And just this is going to be open Q&A. And while I'm answering your question, everybody else can learn from it. That session is next week on the 10th from 11:30 Eastern to 12:30 Eastern. It's 1 hour. Don't miss it because this is your chance to ask your question. Okay. And Perry, I'll have you bring us home. And yes, less issues with muting. We'll work that out for next time.
Good, good. So wonderful topics, great interaction. Thank you everybody for participating today. It gave me an opportunity to sit back and not chime in as much, and Bart appreciates that a whole bunch. You know, and I do have to share this one note that came across my text a little earlier, you know. And I got to give kudos to Bart for this because he's the genius on this. Anybody can lead a buying group, but not everybody can book a conference in a global pandemic. So that's Bart's takeaway for us today, and I think that speaks volumes to where we as a group go as Reciprocity Road, and as we move forward. So you know, everybody pulls out a little bit of something different on this, but boy, man, that just tugged at my heartstrings. So Bart, kudos. Thank you.
There's one question in
this
the
has-
chat from Sherry, if you want to just address that. She wants to be able to follow up the people in the breakout session with their email, contact info. I'll throw that one over to you.
Yeah, so after we wrap up, I will be able to get all the emails together and we'll put a list together and I can share that with everybody via a spreadsheet. And then you can reach out to whoever was in your team and your group and continue the dialogue. I mean, I love that. That is so valuable. And today, this is what Reciprocity is starting to try to build more and more, is the cohesion between our organizations and the ability to network and have collisions and drive the message further down the road. It's not just what gets done in this 90 minutes. And I'm excited that you want to do that, Sherry. So let's do it, right?
All right, and you guys will get the recording, will be available in 2 days. Heather does a little bit of editing for us. And yes, so the Reciprocity Road Facebook group, you can maybe Perry will let me join for a couple of days so I can chime in on some of the things that you guys are talking about. And yep, you'll get the slides also. I'll send them over to Perry. And we will see you next week on Wednesday, right, Perry?
Yep, next week is an hour-long session, guys. It's going to be Q&A format. Again, some good participation. I think, you know, when I look at this, the little individual coaching that everybody got today, that was key, that was valuable. So don't be afraid. We have a leader here who's going to give us some great direction. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate the hour and a half. It's been a wonderful experience again, and look forward to next week.
Bye, everybody.